According to an NGO called National Conference of State Legislatures, over 1,000 bills related to AI have been filed by state lawmakers in 2025.
And the way that AI tools and AI systems and AI services and AI-related jobs are being deployed and activated, I do think it's critical that we treat AI regulation at a national level, at a federal level. To date, there have been, I believe, 70 state laws or statutes passed thus far in the United States, with I think over 1,000 having been proposed to date, if the numbers are right. And having a patchwork of regulations on, for example, model development or telling software companies what software they can deploy would make it practically impossible for internet service providers like a Google or an OpenAI to service customers across state boundaries in a way that is actually going to meet the needs of the customer. This is a huge detriment to consumers and a huge detriment to the job market if we end up creating a patchwork of regulations on AI this early. One of the things that I would point out is that much of the early legislation, like, for example, what we saw in California, if you read that legislation that did not get signed by Gavin Newsom in California, there was a definition on model parameters being a boundary condition for whether or not something would go through a regulatory review process. That was such a naive assertion that early in the phase of AI technology development. And think about the implication was, okay, well, everything is LLMs, but there's other models like vision action models that are going to be used in robotics, models that might be used in predicting and driving physical systems, like in self-driving cars, for example. So the way that the regulation gets written will often be done in a naive context, in a limited fashion by regulators that don't fully understand the breadth of the technology that's coming our way. And I do think that it needs to be kind of leveled up and allowed to operate at a federal level. So I think it is absolutely critical, not just for technology companies, not just for the industry, but for the opportunity for job creation, for improving the economy, for driving GDP and productivity growth, that we get something passed that forces AI regulation to be done at a federal level. Even though I generally agree that states should be able to self-govern, this just has too much of an interstate and global interaction.
And it makes as much sense for states to legislate AI as it would make sense for states to have competitive armies. It doesn't make sense. There are certain things that are just so fundamentally primary to American supremacy and safety and security that it needs to be regulated at the federal level. And I think AI needs to be at the top of that list.